Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Weekend Review with me, EJ Borkart. Once again, the music introduction belongs to a cartoon called Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes. I do not own it. I would highly recommend seeing it. It is an epic series. I thoroughly enjoyed watching it. And the picture this time was done by the same friend for a different story. That is Roiko Ameshi. A story I have been working on since high school as well. It has gone through 4 or 5 rewrites at this point, and I'm nowhere near done with it yet. But fun fact: once I finish with my story with it here, which we only have 3 or 4 more chapters left of the rough draft. Before that's finished, I will replace it with a different story, and a story called the Earth Angel Patrol, which takes place in Roiko's world, could possibly be one of the stories that replaces it. Either that, or possibly Milton will get his own spin-off, have him running around the world with his bow after the events of Ahir. So that's another possibility. But I believe you all are here because you want to know what happened on my blog this week. That's really why you're here, right? Come on, you can tell me. Okay, well, I'm going to tell you anyway. So this week we had Chapter 8 of Beast Blade, Sparing General Aldrich. Now, General Aldrich works for Geraldo, and because of him, Lucas got knocked into the river, swept away, and everyone is certain that he's dead. They haven't found his body, so we can't be entirely sure, but Lucas is gone. It's Aldrich's fault, and Apollos is ready to kill him until Aldrich says, fine, the Beast Blades are gone. I have lost any chance of changing Geraldo's mind and turning him back into a good guy. And so Apollos, of course, decides to give Aldrich another chance, being his former pupil, and he decides that he'll let Aldrich put his talents as a sword fighter and a strategist to use for the rebellion in Phalanx, but he's going to keep an eye on him, and if Aldrich is playing him false, he's ready to strike him down without hesitation. And then after this, they search the river for Lucas, and they cannot find him, so they're convinced he's dead. But before they do a ceremony honoring his death, Aldrich tells Apollos that he sent a force of 60 Acerbi to watch Jerome to make sure that Jerome made no move to help Apollos, and he fears that the Acerbi are going to attack him. So they race back to Jerome's home, and Aldrich comes up with the plan that, you know what, you guys hang back, I will go in and tell the Acerbi that I killed the two of you, I have to search for Lucas, and send the rest of them back with this report to Geraldo, thinking, well, everyone will be happy, Jerome will be safe, the Acerbi will be gone, and it'll give them some time to connect with the rebellion before Geraldo learns of his betrayal. Unfortunately, he was right in his first assumption, and the Acerbi started fighting, so they rush in and they fight against the Acerbi attacking Jerome. Fortunately, with Aldrich, Apollos, and Jerome, who is a beast, fighting, the Acerbi really don't stand much of a chance. Afterwards, Jerome is so grateful that he gives Apollos the butterfly beast blade that has the power to heal that had been brought up previously in the story, and allows them to spend the night, and in the morning sends them all off with some supplies. After that, the next morning, they go to inspect the wagon, and Aldrich starts to tell them a little bit about Geraldo's other generals. There's Elmias, who is he specializes in magic, and there is Ezra, who specializes in power blades, which, if I know they haven't come up too much in the story, they are the little daggers that you slash your beast blade and it gets a power up, like extra arms or wings or a tail. Something that I normally wouldn't have. And the power blade creates a link between you and your beast blade, and the power for the upgrade comes from you, so it quickly drains your energy. And once it's gone, the power up is gone as well. Now, he thinks that the magic general is much more likely to be sent against them, and you really can't set up defenses against magic. Magic will blow through anything you have, and he fears that there's going to be heavy losses to the rebellion, but he thinks that he can prevail in the end against him. And that he also reveals that Elnemus, the magic general, has figured out a way to bring more magic ink with him than what he can write on his body. As long as it's on human skin, it'll stay. So he has skinned people and turned their skin into scrolls, which is kind of gruesome. Yes, but this is the bad guys we're talking about, so this is totally something they would do. And then they discover that the wagon will still work, but it does need repairs. So they decide to head towards Sharon City, and that is the end of that chapter. Next, I'm going to give you a review of everything that has led up to this next week's chapter of Ahir. Ahir was a simple street performer until he was approached by Barbo, the Abbess Severum, in monkey form with a sword that told him that he's the only one that can wield this sword, and this sword is the only thing that can hurt Abbess Severum, and he needs him to protect the sword to prevent it from falling into the hands of Lang Khan, who wants to use it to kill his father and any Abbess Severum that stand against him and take over the entire world that they live in, which is different from our world. So he fights against the Abbess Severum, who are sent through portals to try and retrieve the sword for Lang Khan, and he ends up meeting up with Trixie, who at first, simply because she has a crush on Ahir, wants to be there and help out however she can. Humans cannot hurt Abbess Severum. They could use magic against them to slow them down, but using magic, one, won't kill them, and two, slowly corrupts you till you become a puppet for Lang Khan, so it's really not an option. And eventually, they meet up with another human that Abbess Severum was sent over with an artifact named Milton, who refuses to work with Ahir, and he hates Ahir because Torjad, his Abbess Severum guardian, has slowly poisoned him against him because he's secretly been working for Lang Khan the whole time and wants to distract them, divide them, and eventually end up to their defeat. Milton has a bow that alters gravity. The way it works is he shoots arrows off in pairs from it. First arrow selects the target of the gravity effect, and the second one affects what the target is drawn to. So, for example, if I shoot a car with the first arrow, and I shoot the wall of a building with a second arrow, the car will be pulled toward the wall of the building. That is how his bow works, and at first when Milton meets up with them, he tells them, "You stop fighting, we don't need you killing things anymore, I can do this much better with my bow without actually hurting anyone. You go and you deal with Captain Ember, a human who has figured out how to use magic." Ahir goes and tries to convince Captain Ember, who is using magic to masquerade around as a superhero, that using magic is a bad thing. It's going to end up killing him or converting him into an evil person in the end. Captain Ember thinks he's making stuff up. He decides that Ahir is his arch nemesis and starts attacking him. Fortunately, Ahir is able to evade his attacks, but it's enough magic that it pushes him over the edge, and he becomes a puppet to Lang Khan. Now, Lang Khan's main mission, get the sword. Fortunately, Ahir doesn't have it with him, and so Ahir and Lang Khan go on a chase across the city back to Ahir's apartment where he has left or where Trixie has taken the sword. He gets back to the apartment, thinks he's lost Lang Khan, gets the sword. Lang Khan rips the wall of his apartment off, starts the apartment building on fire, and then a fight goes on between all three of the heroes. Ahir, Trixie, and Milton. Milton has been injured in a previous fight. He's limping because one of his legs has been hit with some shrapnel. And then we have Trixie's guardian shows up, Syllabo, and gives her a shield that has the power to deflect any attack, magical or physical, back onto its source. So basically, you punch it, you're going to end up hurting yourself, and she'll be fine. They are able to defeat Lang Khan through teamwork, even though Milton does his best not to be involved. And unfortunately, Ahir's apartment is burnt to the ground. No one is actually hurt. They find out that the king really wants them all to work together, and that Lang Khan is upping his attacks, sending more Avis of Aram through, opening the portals more frequently. And also that time flows differently from their world to our world. In their world, if an hour passes, it's a day in our world. And so from there, and Barbo has an ability that he can sense where portals are open when they are. Where the portals are when they open. Torjad can sense when and where the portals will open. And so, through result of this, Milton is always there and prepared to take on whatever comes through the portal, whereas here has to get there and react afterwards. Turns out that the Avis of Aram have a plan that they want to do more than just retrieve the sword. They want to kidnap humans to take into back to their world, because whenever anyone goes through the portal, it transforms you to represent whatever you hold in your heart. So they're taking a bunch of... The Avis of Aram that are coming through are mostly turning into monsters, with the exception of Torjad, Barbo, and Syllabo, who turn into animals. The humans going through are also turning into monsters. They want to set them to attack the people in the different cities to get them to attack them back with magic, causing more and more people to be corrupted and turn to Lang Khan's side. And Milton and Ahir and Trixie are going to do their best to prevent this. Unfortunately, because of lack of teamwork and coordination, more people are taken, and eventually they come up with a system that, since Milton knows when and where the portals are going to open, he goes to the ones that he wants to, and he tells Ahir and Trixie about the ones that he won't be able to get to, and then they can cover them all better that way. Fortunately, on one of the first portals that they go to on this team up, Ahir, the police show up, and they end up arresting Ahir, one, for running around the city with a sword, and two, because they suspect him for burning down his apartment building and killing Captain Ember, in other words, Thaddeus Dillard, which he did kill Captain Ember, but he was possessed by Lang Khan, so he really didn't have a choice on that one. But eventually, he's able to convince the police that everything he's been telling them is true, and the police decide that since there's nothing they can actually do against these creatures, they're going to support Ahir however they can. As long as he lets them know when and where the portals are going to open, they will go there, make sure that everyone gets cleared away from the scene of the fight, and that no one gets involved. So it's just Ahir and the Avis of Aram. He doesn't have to worry about civilians being hurt. And this continues on for a while, until and Torjad heals Milton, because Milton, the doctors are telling him if he keeps running around on his leg the way he has been, he's going to end up doing permanent damage to it, and he's thinking about giving his bow to someone else. So Torjad heals him so that he doesn't have to do that, and he can keep a minion that he can manipulate on the field, instead of giving Ahir another ally. And after that, Milton overhears Lang Khan and Torjad talking about a new plan to defeat Ahir. They found this. Ahir and Barbo have created a bond that if anything happens to Barbo, Ahir starts to lose it and lash out violently. So they have an Avis of Aram kidnap Barbo and take him back to the portal, and Ahir just goes berserk with magic, taking it out on these other Avis of Aram. It's enough for Lang Khan to convert him, and he has turned Ahir into his puppet and just walks through the portal with the sword. Trixie was not there to help Ahir because Milton had been kidnapped by Torjad after he found out about this to keep him from warning Ahir. And so Trixie was looking for him when all this happened. She shows up too late, but the good news is Milton was found, and he lost an eye, unfortunately, but he's in the hospital, otherwise fine. Trixie, Silabo, and Milton all gather in the hospital, and they come up with a plan to go back to the Ava Severum world, get the sword from Lang Khan, and free Ahir. They do so with the help of Silabo, and they go through the portal, and Trixie is changed so that she actually looks like an Ava Severum, and Milton looks like a really cool lion-human hybrid thing. And they convince the king and his followers that they have to attack Lang Khan, that these other Ava Severum should come along as a distraction for Milton and Trixie, because nothing can hurt them really but the sword. So having more targets for their opponents to use magic on will keep some of the pressure off of them. And Laz Crit, the legendary blacksmith that created all the artifacts that Trixie and Milton and Ahir have used, along with a whole bunch of other ones with magical properties, gives Milton a pair of gauntlets that will allow him to fly, so he has even better mobility and can get into better places for sniping people with his bow, and gives Trixie a helmet that gives her super speed, so she can cover more people and block magical attacks on them with her shield. So anyway, they go and they actually, that we're caught up now. That is everything that has happened into Ahir up to what's going to happen in next week's chapter. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a sneak peek of what's coming next week. Next week, Milton and Trixie go ahead and start their attack on Lang Khan, and they find the city mostly deserted until they get right in front of his palace. And they begin their attack there. Meanwhile, Ahir marches into Lang Khan's tower. He has been transformed into a black mist, because apparently that's what having Lang Khan in your heart will do. And he is going to be imprisoned, and Lang Khan is going to begin work on breaking the seal in the sword so that someone other than Ahir can use it. And the Ava Severum, under his control in his palace, begin preparations for a much larger invasion on Earth. And that is your sneak peek for Ahir for next week. That come back Monday, Wednesday, Friday for parts 1, 2, and 3 of Chapter 15 of Ahir, Guardian of Malor. Or if you just want to see it all at once, come back on Saturday. I will post the full chapter for you. Of course, you can find the other parts of this story on the index page on my blog. I want to thank you guys so much for coming and listening to me ramble. And that has been the weekend review for July 12th. If you have any questions for me about my stories, about me, about anything, leave them in the comment section below. I promise that I will answer them in the video. I have done this for a couple of different questions already. Also, make sure to come back on Tuesday when I will have the next audio chapter of Ahir, Guardian of Malor up on my blog. And if you enjoy advertising the way I do, this past week I just put a Mentos commercial up on my blog that I analyzed and looked at. It's actually pretty entertaining. If nothing else, go ahead and check out the commercial. And if you have any suggestions for commercials that you want me to look at, go ahead and leave those on my blog as well. Until next week, I have been EJ Borkert, and this has been the Weekend Review. Thank you all for coming and checking it out. Have a great day, week, month, whatever you're going to have. Make it great. Bye.